talker of the day, a magnitude 5.7 quake hit north of Yerington this afternoon, sending some people scrambling for cover. The latest developments from the quake tops 2 News Nevada at 6:30. A lot of people felt this one, including folks right here in Reno and Sparks. The earthquake hit just after 3:10 this afternoon. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ryan Canaday. Kristen is on assignment the rest of the night. So let's take a look here. The earthquake hit about 16 miles northeast of Yerington. Has been followed by dozens of aftershocks now. So tonight we do have team coverage of the aftermath of the quake. Chief Meteorologist Chris Larson is in the Stormwatch Weather Center tracking aftershocks from the quake. Alexander Ray is live at the University of Nevada, Reno after speaking with seismologists there. But let's start with Michaela Hardy, who made the trek down to Yerington. Michaela, how strong was the shaking from people who you've spoken with there in town?
Yeah, Ryan, well, a lot of people out here are saying that this is actually the strongest earthquake that they have ever experienced out in Yerington. Just to get a good idea as to how strong that may feel, looking back at the Reno Sparks area when it first broke out, there was a Sparks City Council meeting going on, and they actually had to briefly pause their meeting to make sure that it wasn't going to get worse and that it was safe to continue their meeting. So if the people out in the Sparks Reno area are feeling a little concerned about that, imagine how people in Yerington are feeling where the big main earthquake was.
So we had just all come back in from the park, had about 120 kids in our building when it felt like a giant semi-truck was driving by the club. And when it got worse and when it kept going, I think that's when everybody realized, oh, this is an earthquake. And so yeah, did our safety procedures, got underneath the desk, and the biggest thing I remember is feeling the ground roll.
Beaton says the Boys and Girls Club had just recently conducted an earthquake drill, so luckily the kids knew exactly what to do and no one panicked too much. The Nevada Division of Emergency Management says it is working with local and state agencies right now to assess the impacts of the earthquake. This includes looking into the extent of damage and seeing what resources communities may need. Now we'll be sure to look into and talk and hear more from how the people are feeling up here in Yerington and what their experiences were like back when the earthquake broke. We'll be sure to keep you updated on that from hearing from more people later tonight in our 7 o'clock and 11 shows. Covering the story live in Yerington, Michaela Hardy, 2 News Nevada.
Yeah, at least looking at downtown Yerington there, it looks calm, cool, collected. We haven't heard reports of anybody who experienced any major damage or injuries, so let's hope it certainly stays that way. Okay, let's check in now with Alexander Ray, who touched base with the Seismological Laboratory over at the University of Nevada, Reno. Alexandra, what did they tell you over there?
Yeah, Ryan, they told me that it's not uncommon to have these kind of earthquakes over in central Nevada. They say that we have 5-point magnitude earthquakes at least once every year, and that we also have 6 or 7-point magnitude earthquakes every 10 years.
It is not impossible that some earthquakes could happen now that are bigger than the 5.5. So that's what we want to be out on the lookout for. There's a greater risk of earthquakes right after you have a moderate earthquake like this one.
Yeah, and they also wanted to point out that they are also keeping an eye on the mountains because having a 6 or 7-point magnitude earthquake in those areas can be very damaging. It can cause rock falls and even the highway splitting in two. So you're just going to want to make sure that you're careful if those things did happen. But that's why they're keeping a very close eye on the Mount Rose area, because there is a giant fault line, which is just a crack in the earth when earthquakes do happen. So they have a giant fault line that goes through Mount Rose that they're going to be keeping an eye on because they have a lot of little shocks that might be coming in after this.
We've actually been in a very quiet period for about the last 50 to 70 years. Nevada is a very seismically active state, and it does have very large earthquakes. There's greater than magnitude 7 earthquakes happened in 1954 in central Nevada. So that's the kind of thing that we know will happen again.
Yeah, and if one of those giant earthquakes did hit us, we could be asked to shelter in place for at least a week or two is what they were saying. But I just want to make it clear that that is not happening right this moment. But you do want to be aware that over the next couple weeks, we might be experiencing some more shakes from the aftershocks of this earthquake. Covering the story live at the Seismological Lab here at the University of Nevada, Reno, I'm Alexander Ray, 2 News Nevada.
Yet another reminder that this is earthquake country. Alexander, thank you. And another reminder here, you can keep track of earthquakes throughout our area using the 2 News Nevada weather app. It has an earthquake overlay on the map where you can see where the quakes hit and how big they are. You can also check out the radar and forecast information as well. A lot of information on the app. It's free to download from your app store. For a closer look now at the aftershocks, let's send it over to Chief Meteorologist Chris Larson. Chris, we were in here in the, or at least I was in here in the studio. You had just stepped out moments before it happened. All the studio lights in here were shaking. And then you came in right as it ended, seeming.
Yeah, you see the light swaying here in the studio. Now, I was up walking around. I didn't feel anything, but folks that were sitting in the newsroom at their desks certainly felt it. I thought we would take a look at the map at the initial quake. This happened roughly 15 miles to the northeast of the Yerington area, and it was up and over some of that higher terrain. So early estimates are anywhere between a 5.7, 5.8 magnitude earthquake. And then after 312, we saw multiple aftershocks. This just includes those that were greater than a 3.0. So again, just to the north and northeast. Now, this was a relatively shallow earthquake, and in terms of the intensity scale runs from 1 to 10. What we felt here in the Reno area was on the scale of 4, on the light side, but in and around the Lux area, Wabasca, Yerington, they were more in that range of 6 to 7, a strong to a very strong earthquake. And you heard there from folks at the Boys and Girls Club of just what it felt and sounded like. Beyond that, we're tracking winter